Stand clear of the closing doors. The train will move in just a moment. Good morning, Bronx Zoo explorers, and welcome aboard the Wild Asia Monorail. My name is Riv, and I'll be your lovely guide and driver for today. And once we cross the Bronx River right here, we'll be transported into Asia as if by magic. We'll be visiting animals from China to India, Cambodia to Nepal, and more. For your safety, you must remain seated at all times, and please keep your hands and feet inside the car. Now, here at the Bronx Zoo, we are the headquarters of the Wildlife Conservation Society, or WCS. We have eco-guards and scientists working out in the field, as well as zookeepers working here at home to protect animals all over the world. Right here, we're starting to enter an area called our Kanha Meadow, where we currently care for 3 different species of deer and 1 species of antelope. To our left, you'll start to see some of our Barassinga deer. They're those honey-colored ones that are on the hill to our left. And to our right, you're seeing some of these spotted deer, and these are some of our axis deer. Most of them are adults, some of them are fawns, but the axis deer, they keep their white spots for the duration of their life, rather than losing them as they mature like most other deer species. And again, those big honey-colored ones that you're seeing with the axis deer are some of our Barassinga. Those are some of our Barassinga males that you're seeing towards the back. Now the Barassinga, they get their name from the male's antlers, which can be quite large and have up to 12 to 14 points, and they're sometimes also referred to as swamp deer, as they're typically found living in marshes in India. And we do also have some of our blackbuck antelope and some of our Bactrian deer in this area, but they're kind of hiding at the moment because the sun's pretty strong over here. We'll probably see them a little bit later on in the tour when we loop back around to the back end of this enclosure. So when we get over there, I'll let you guys know, and I'll slow the train down over there as well so you have a chance to see them all. But right now, though, we'll just kind of make our way out of this first meadow as it's pretty empty on this latter half. And we'll get to our next enclosure in a couple of seconds. But the reason why we have this meadow here in the first place is because Asia is actually the continent known for having the largest number of deer species. It's super well known for its deer diversity, so that's why we have all of these different kinds of deer in here. Now, once we turn this corner, we'll enter the enclosure with a species that was actually on the verge of extinction. In fact, the Mongolian wild horse, or Przewalski's horse, they were extinct out in the wild and could only be found in zoos. Recently, there have been some reintroduction efforts of their species in several areas of Mongolia and China from herds in North American and Asian zoos. You'll start to see them right in the center area of this meadow. They're right in that between the lower and the upper meadow. Now you'll notice quite a few differences between these horses and the more domestic ones that we're used to seeing. The Przewalski's horse has a stockier build, shorter legs, and an upright mane which is missing a forelock. And that forelock is just that hair that typically falls over a horse's forehead, similar to bangs, so that is why they look a bit more like donkeys than horses, but they are a species of wild horse. And the one that's kind of by that tree in the center, that's a little bit shorter and a little bit paler than the rest of them, that's our foal that was born over the winter season about 7 months ago. And to date, we've had over 55 Przewalski horse foals born here at the Bronx Zoo since receiving our first animals in 1902. I do also have a bit more information about these guys from one of our coordinators, Jonathan Slatt.
I'm Jonathan Slatt, and I'm the Russia and Northeast Asia coordinator for the Wildlife Conservation Society. I believe that wildlife has a place on this earth, and my job is to find practical solutions that allow people and wildlife to thrive together. Petr Przewalski's horse went extinct in the wild in the 1960s. On a recent trip to Kazakhstan, I thought about the ongoing and successful efforts in that country to bring these horses back to the Central Asian steppe. The world needs happy stories, to watch the impossible become possible, and to see hope restored. And that's what's happening today with Petr Przewalski's horse.
And this is still Przewalski horse territory right here. This is just that upper meadow. We saw them in between the lower and the upper side, but they transition in between the two areas throughout the day, especially depending on the weather, if they want a little more sun, a little more shade, or some coverage from any rain. On occasion, they can sometimes also prefer the different grasses that grow in each area for grazing, so trust me, they do use every square inch of that very large meadow to run around and stretch their legs. Once we pass all this foliage here, though, we're gonna enter a huge pasture up ahead, and in that huge pasture, we'll be on the lookout for some very large cow-like animals known as the gaur. And the gaur, spelled G-A-U-R, they're a relative of the American bison, which is another species of animal that we have here at the Bronx Zoo. Some of you might have seen them, most of you probably haven't yet today, but they do look pretty similar to them, as they're sometimes referred to as Indian bison. However, the gaur are a lot bigger, and I say that because they're actually the largest wild cattle species in the world. They can be up to 6 feet tall, 10 feet long, and weigh over 2,000 pounds. So for reference, that's roughly the size of a small car each, and we do have a lot of them here in our herd. They're kind of right in front of us, but they're all the way by the back fence, so that's why it's a little tough to see them, as most of them are lying down. A couple are standing up though, so you can see their heads and horns poking out back there. Now, with their large size and their impressive horns, the male gaur, they can actually fight off just about any predator, even a tiger, and so the main threats to them these days are instead major habitat losses due to humans over farming, as well as bovine diseases transmitted from our more domestic cattle, like cows. Their horns are also a great indicator for their sex, as female gaur have horns that curve inwards, and male gaur have horns that point straight up. Unsurprisingly, the males are substantially larger than the females, but it is a bit more fun to go based off their horns. For the gaur as well, I do have a bit more insight, but this time it'll be from one of our zookeepers named Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave, a wild animal keeper here in Wild Asia. When the Bronx Zoo received 2 female and 1 male gaur from the San Diego Zoo, it took a couple of introductions before all the animals were comfortable. But after a little bit of time, the 3 new animals fully integrated into the herd, and we have the family that you see today. A family group of gaur can consist of up to 40 individuals and is typically led by an older adult female called the matriarch. Since the 2 females and 1 male have been added to this family, there have been a number of offspring. This is important because gaur are considered to be a vulnerable species, so it's vital to maintain a healthy growing herd here at the zoo.
Now, it will take a few seconds before we get to our next animal, but as we're passing through, you might have heard it before, you're probably hearing it now. There's a little bit of background noise. It's just because the Bronx River Parkway is directly behind this train right now, so sometimes it can get pretty loud. That's actually why we have this wooden fence here, to block out and reduce that noise for our next animal. So when we finish turning here, this enclosure is where we'll be able to see our tiger. And tiger stripes do provide excellent camouflage, so they're oftentimes pretty difficult to spot. They are so secretive that even professional researchers on occasion can struggle to find them out in the wild. Today, our tiger is kind of by that right side. He's currently walking a little bit towards this way, so we'll see him in a moment. He's going to be on that right side underneath the tracks ahead of us, and then he'll do the full turn. So don't worry if you don't see him immediately. He'll walk out where you can see him. But today we have our male Amur, or Siberian tiger, named Anakin, and of the 2 subspecies of tiger that we have here at the Bronx Zoo, the Amur and the Malayan, his species, the Amur, is actually the larger. It's just kind of hard to tell because he's in here by himself, so you can't really make a comparison, but we just do that because they're a solitary species and they live alone out in the wild, so it is in their best interest to be in here all by themselves, as they get quite territorial, so they do prefer it this way. And tigers do hunt a variety of animals, but they prefer wild pigs and medium-sized deer. Typically, a tiger will gorge itself on a fresh kill, eating as much as 40 pounds of meat at one time. And that's the equivalent of 160 hamburgers in a single sitting. So after a meal of that size, a tiger will usually not eat again for several days. And the WCS has been a leader in tiger conservation, and our scientists out in the field tell us that there is reason to be hopeful that tigers are beating the odds against extinction. The WCS partners with 6 other conservation groups on tiger conservation efforts, and together we are all fighting against the threats facing wild tigers, including poaching, lack of prey, and habitat loss. You can also always see more of our tigers if you visit our Tiger Mountain, which is just a short 10-minute walk from here. You just have to exit Asia Plaza and go to the right until you see the Tiger Mountain sign in order to get there. Now in just a second, we're also going to pass by the back end of the Kanha Meadow, where we started the tour with the deer and the antelope. We missed some of the species, so if we're lucky, we'll be able to see a couple more of them right here at the back end. So straight across from us on that big hill, you'll see some of our black buck antelope. They're the very small animals on that hill. They have a white underbelly. The females are the tan ones, and the male is the dark brown one with the horns that point upwards in a V shape. Their species is sexually dimorphic, which means that they appear different based on their sex, so that's why they have those different colorations. And there's also some pretty large pale deer kind of around the area. They're hiding kind of towards the back, so it might be tough to see them, but those are just some of our Bactrian deer. And funnily enough, Although they're so pale, they're actually considered a subspecies of red deer, despite not being red. If you could see some of them, it was a little bit hard, but they're more of a pale gray / gold color instead. And nature's just funny like that sometimes, but that's most of what we had in that area. You saw most of the animals in the beginning, so there's just a couple that you missed there at the end. We'll keep on turning here until we start to see some bamboo, as that lets us know that we're about to see our wild pig species known as the babirusa. And we have two of our females right here in this first pen, and we'll have one of our males in the pen right after them. You'll see that their skin color is very similar to their environment, so they do tend to blend in a little bit. And the male in the second pen, he has these upper tusks that are up through the top of his snout and curve back towards his eyes. And that is actually how their species gets their name, as babirusa means pig deer in the Malay language, and their tusks kind of resemble antlers. Ahead of us, you'll already start to see our next animal, as she's not only one of the world's largest land mammals, she's in a good spot for us to see her, so she's pretty clear. It's almost impossible to miss her. This is our Asian elephant, and her name is Happy. And African and Asian elephants, like Happy here behind this pond, they're iconic animals worldwide, as we all know. Unfortunately, though, they are struggling out in the wild, and Asian elephants, they can weigh more than 10,000 pounds, so they do have to eat a lot of vegetation. For example, our elephants can eat as much as 200 pounds of hay and drink 60 gallons of water each day. And that chunk of hers actually has more than 40,000 muscles in it, and Asian elephants also have this unique finger-like adaptation at the base of their trunk that allows them to gently pick up blades of grass, or they can use those 40,000 muscles to tear off entire tree branches with tremendous force. So it's truly an incredible tool for them. Our elephants do also get a lot of personal attention here at the Bronx Zoo, including baths and pedicures on the regular, and the large tree stump that we pass by the pool of water is essentially an elephant-sized back scratcher as well. And a little fun fact about Happy is that she's actually over 50 years old, so she's been here for quite some time, and it makes her a bit of an old lady for elephant standards, but it's extra reason as to why we pamper her here. And right next to where we have our elephant enclosure, we have this one that we're starting to enter with another large land mammal. However, in here, it's going to be our greater one-horned rhinoceros named Priya. And she's on the other side of the enclosure, so we'll catch up with her in a couple of seconds here. So just give it a moment. But many people do describe rhinos as armor-plated. However, they're just covered in one layer of skin that has a lot of folds in it. And though their skin will look thick and tough, it's in fact very, very sensitive and needs plenty of protection from the sunlight and from insects. And one of the rhino's favorite ways to protect its skin is to sit in a mud wallow, like the one we passed and the one we're approaching here in a few seconds. For them, it works kind of like sunscreen, and it's also very cooling on a hot day, so they love to sit in it, particularly in the morning. We've also had a lot of success with our greater one-horned rhinoceros. Here at the Bronx Zoo, we help animals like the rhino and tiger by participating in cooperative zoo management programs called the Species Survival Plan. Simply put, it's a plan to help these animals survive, so zoos across the world, they'll work together to maintain genetically diverse populations of rare and endangered species through breeding and trading programs. And as you may have guessed, today all rhinos are considered either vulnerable or endangered, and recent estimations have the wild population of greater one-horned rhinoceros at around 3,700 in India and Nepal. We currently care for 4 greater one-horned rhinos, Priya being one of them, and we've had 14 baby rhinos born here at the Bronx Zoo. And a little fun fact about their species, or maybe not so fun fact, is that female rhinos, they can actually be pregnant for up to 16 months, a whole year and a half. And that baby will stay with its mother for 2 to 3 years, even though weaning takes only about 12 to 16 months, and weaning is when they stop nursing. And once that baby is born, it can weigh up to 80 to 100 pounds as well. Now, I do also have a bit more information about the WCS's work with not just these rhinos, but also Sumatran rhinos to kind of keep you entertained while we get to our next enclosure here. Never mind, it decided not to work. So we'll just keep it moving. It won't take that long until we get to the next enclosure, so don't worry. We're just gonna pass a bunch of trees. I'll go kind of fast so that we can see the animals in the next enclosure sooner. But as we're going through here, since it is pretty silent, I do still have time to remind you guys that if you have any small children, to please make sure that they're seated on the benches or in your lap. It's just a safety hazard, so please make sure that they are seated. We're almost at our next enclosure here anyway. Here we go. So the area we're starting to see through the trees, this is what we call our uplands meadow, and this is where we care for a variety of other deer and antelope species, different to the ones from our first meadow, so it won't be the same thing twice. You don't have to worry about that. Because it's the morning, they all sort of ran straight out, so they're all the way on the other side that you can see ahead of us. We'll do a full turn, and then we'll start to see them. It'll take a little bit, so just give it a moment. So we have to get past all of this foliage and this hill that you're seeing ahead of us with all of these rocks. It kind of blocks our view, so once we do get past this hill, we'll start to see them all on the right side. I'll start to slow down here because we're gonna see them to our right. The first deer that we're gonna see are gonna be a little bit difficult to spot. You have to have a good eye. So to our right, we have this grass patch with some fallen trees on it. If you follow this grass all the way to the back fence, in the top left corner, all the way by that back fence, you might be able to see some of our deer just kind of lying down over there in that shade. Those are some of our sandbar deer. They're a fully dark brown color, so it is kind of hard to see them back there. But they're the largest species we have in this area and the largest species of deer in southern Asia. It just doesn't look that way because they're so far away from us. And to our right, you'll see some of our Nilgai antelope and some of our brow antlered deer. The Nilgai antelope have that big brown body and that white rump, as well as those black and white stripes above their hooves. Their name comes from the male's coloration, which is a bluish gray, as Nilgai means blue bull in Hindi, but we currently only have females, so they just have that brown coloration instead. And there are some of our sandbar deer next to them, which have that completely dark brown body and those big antlers. Those are some of our males. The brow antler deer are kind of hiding. They're a little bit smaller than the Nilgai and the sandbar. You can't really see them all too well because they're all the way tucked in the back corner where that shade is, but they're kind of our average looking deer anyways, so they're not that interesting in comparison to our other species in here. And their name just comes from the fact that the male's antlers curve forward towards the deer's brow, but we don't even have males anyway, so they don't have antlers. Now this mini meadow that we're starting to enter houses just one species of deer known as the Chinese tufted deer. They're a small species since they weigh less than 40 pounds, and they're a dark brown, almost gray color, so it's easy to miss them as we pass through, as their natural camouflage is quite good. Typically, they like to hang out by that back fence in those leaves that you're seeing, as they do prefer colder weather over warmer weather, and they get more shade back there. We'll see if we're lucky and spot any in here. We don't have a lot of them. There's only 5 in total, and when they disperse and hide, that's what makes it almost impossible to see them in here. If we're lucky, we maybe will spot one of them. But we're still lucky to have that small amount, even if it is hard to see them most of the time, as their species is considered quite rare outside of Chinese zoos. And their name just comes from a small tuft of fur that they have at the top of their head, so hence the tufted part of Chinese tufted deer. It's perfectly normal to not see them, especially in the morning, as they're all hiding. But here we'll just pass back over the Bronx River once again, and thousands of commuters cross this waterway every single day without realizing the incredible habitat that it provides for native turtles, fish, and migrating birds like ducks and geese. And ahead of it is the area where we'll see our 2 wild goat species, the markhor and the Himalayan tahr. Both of our goat species are excellent climbers, as they have these rubbery cores in the center of their hooves that help them grip rocks, similar to the sole of a boot, and they're also both native to mountainous regions out in the wild. You'll mostly see the markhor in this area. We have an abundance of them. They're the ones with that pale color and those curly corkscrew-like horns that go upwards, and they're also the largest of the wild goats. We have adult males, adult females, as well as baby markhor, which are known as kids. We have 11 kids in total in this area that you'll see, and they were born about 6-ish months ago, so they're pretty small. The markhor are also such great climbers, as they can jump up to 6 to 8 feet in the air without really needing a running start. So a lot of these rocks and tree stumps that you'll see are just things that they can easily jump right on top of or jump right over as they climb literal mountains out in the wild. It's just how they exercise and have fun in here. And to our right, we're gonna pass a little V in the trees and then see a small enclosure with just one animal, and it'll be our male red panda named Linus. He's right in the center of the tree, so you'll get a good look at him. Just wait for your train car to pass. But in Nepal, the red panda is called Hun Ho, which roughly translates to firefox, and the Mandarin word for red panda, Xiao Shou Mao, translates to small bear cat. Today we know that red pandas are more closely related to skunks, raccoons, and weasels, more so than bears like the giant panda, but they both do enjoy snacking on bamboo. And you can always see more of them if you visit our Himalayan highlands, which is located just a short 5-minute walk from here. And over at the Himalayan highlands, you can also see another one of our Asian big cats, the snow leopard as well. So it's the same as going to Tiger Mountain. You just exit Asia Plaza and go to the right, and eventually you'll see it. Now Linus is the last animal that we're going to see during this tour, so up ahead we'll turn a corner and start to slow down again as it's almost the end. But you guys have heard from me and some of our animal experts here and in the field, and we really do hope that you guys have been inspired by all you've heard and seen today. If you remember from the beginning of the tour, the Bronx Zoo is part of the Wildlife Conservation Society, or WCS, in addition to the 5 parks that we manage in New York City: the Bronx Zoo, the New York Aquarium, the Central Park Zoo, the Queens Zoo, and the Prospect Park Zoo. The WCS does also have scientists working out in the field at more than 300 sites in over 50 countries. So they do work tirelessly to find solutions and ensure the survival of endangered wildlife worldwide. And you do your part and help us help wildlife just by being here today, so thank you all. Now we're going to make a brief stop up ahead. It will not be our final stop, so I do ask that you just please remain seated. It's just so that I can quickly reset the train before I bring it back to the platform. Once I do stop, it'll take about 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'll pull forward to the platform. It won't take too long, so again, just sit tight while I do this. But I have some information that I can give you guys. So because it is October, our fall season has started. So we have a bunch of our fall events like Boo at the Zoo, as well as our Harvest Glow. So Boo at the Zoo is our daytime event. We have a bunch of fun things that you can do during the day when you come into the zoo, and we do also have our Harvest Glow event, which is our nighttime event, and we illuminate the whole zoo with a bunch of light-up decorations, and there's a bunch of fun shows and activities, and you can even walk through Dinosaur Safari at night, and they all light up. It's super, super fun. It's super cool. We worked really, really hard on both of these events, so we'd love to see you there. If you want to come, you can always learn more about those events and get tickets for them over at bronxzoo.com on the events tab. So again, if you'd like to learn more about those events and attend, it is bronxzoo.com and look at the events tab. Alright guys, our adventure is now coming to its official end. Once again, just please remain seated until the train makes a complete stop and those doors fully open, and watch your step as you're exiting the monorail car. There's a step up for people in the front row and a step down for people in the back row, so try not to trip. If you're in the first 6 cars, you can exit to your right. If you're in the last 2 cars, you can exit to your left, and if you're in Lucky Car B6, you can just exit straight ahead. And those instructions are for when facing the door so that you don't get confused. And I've of course been your guide and driver, Riv. It has been my absolute pleasure to do this tour for you guys. You've all been great. And on behalf of the Bronx Zoo, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you'll come back and visit us again very, very soon. Before you leave the train, please make sure you have all of your belongings. Check the seats and the floors, and if you have any trash, please take it with you as well, and just throw it out at the trash can on the platform. Do not leave it on this train. It is not a trash can, so please just take it.